running the Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Badlands Book Club.
What the heck?
You didn't know. She didn't know you were bringing her on just now.
Oh, you're part of the show now, so I'm bringing you on. I'm bringing you on right away.
Just over here eating my dinner.
You got a couple minutes. Just mute yourself. You got some time. It's okay. This is a book club. It's very casual. As you can see, I'm not even wearing my Do hoodie. I'm wearing. Oh, I still got a tag on this. I literally just got this shirt today.
Do you like it? How is it?
I love it. It's badass. I love it. Yeah. So
I have the shirt that you and Christy gave me. Thou shalt ingest a satchel of Richards.
Yeah. Eat a bag.
Eat a bag of dick.
All right. So, guys, welcome to the show. If you didn't hear on Daily this morning, I think yesterday as well, kind of a little bit of a change up on this one. We're not going to be going over chapter 5. I don't think we'll get there. And I don't think Ash has read it anyway. So, but we are going to be doing a recap of chapters 1 through 3, because those are the ones that, stolen elections, Ralph Pizzulo.
What recap 1 through 4?
Well, we did 4 with Colonel.
We'll do it again.
1 through 3, maybe into 4. You know what I mean. But before we do that, we do have to get a word from our sponsor. So, Ash, why don't you tell our lovely audience about our good friends over at Benson Honey Farms?
Welcome to Benson Honey Farms, where every jar is pure gold. Benson Honey is excited to be back on the Badlands media lineup with their latest 2025 honey harvest, straight from their farm in Nebraska. While they've been busy working to improve our state politics from the ground up, they never forgot the importance of sharing the best honey around. Did you know that honey is not just a sweet treat? It's nature's medicine. It's perfect for alleviating allergies, soothing upset stomachs, as a delicious meal, natural sweetener for baking. Honey, Benson honey is never heated. It's that ensures that you receive it in its purest raw form, full of natural goodness. And at Benson Honey Farms, quality and purity is top priority, and they're committed to providing the highest, finest honey from hive to home. I don't think it's the highest honey. I'm apparently illiterate today. Join the supportive community and enjoy a special offer. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/honey and use promo code Badlands for 15% off your purchase. Benson Honey Farms, savor the authentic taste of Nebraska and support this America First business. Follow on Facebook at Benson Honey Farms. One more time, that's badlandsmedia.tv/honey.
All right. Yeah, we love our
good stuff.
Benson Honey. I know.
So can I give them a plug? I buy their candy. That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Their soap is really good too, and their barbecue sauce, hot honey, is really good. Their Benson Honey Farms is awesome.
Their barbecue sauce is one of the best barbecue sauces I've ever had.
Well, I haven't tried their barbecue sauce.
Oh yeah, it's so good. It's got a little kick to it, but it is like seriously, like I used to be like strictly Sweet Baby Ray's and some other sauces that I would make. Nope, theirs just replaces everything. So,
we did not start appropriately with Happy Insurrection Day, you guys.
I was going to say Happy Patriots Day or Happy Fedsurrection Day, whichever you prefer.
Well, Happy Insurrection Day to all who celebrate. It is the day that the cover-up of the cover-up happened, and pretty excited about it. Check out, shameless plug, check out my daily history update today at ashinamerica.substack.com, where I lay out my personal experience. And there's I have diagrams and pictures that I made with it. It's a lot of fun. 6 p.m. Eastern time comes out. No, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Mountain time comes out.
All right. And let's hear from our second sponsor of this evening.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our biggest Made in America sale ever. We just put huge discounts on products made right here in the USA. My Pillow bed pillows, body pillows, go anywhere pillows, bolster pillows, all made with my patented adjustable fill. Mattresses, mattress toppers, mattress pads, adjustable bed frames, mattress foundations, and so much more. All made right here in the USA. And now we're expanding our USA products beyond just quality sleep. Like the cross I wear every day, now available in both men's and women's. We even have USA-made socks. And are you tired of being tired? Try our new health beverage, Rev 7. Or how about my coffee, the greatest coffee ever? So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to get deep discounts on all these products. Plus, for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
All right, mypillow.com, promo code Badlands. I'm out here doing wardrobe changes like I'm Nicolas Maduro.
Yeah, what happened? Why'd you change? You just felt naked, couldn't do it.
Yeah, I got to wear a hoodie.
Yeah, you gotta have the hoodie.
Yeah, I wanted to show.
Best night's sleep in the whole wide world. Visit mypillow.com. Use promo code Badlands and get a mattress topper. Change your life.
All right, so Colonel, we're going to get into this real quick, and I meant to text you this before, and I apologize I did not, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot. But as we go through, do you have it noted in the book so we can go through where you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I write in the columns.
Okay, cool. So before we even, go ahead, Gash.
No, I was just going to say, I thought that we were going to take we were going to go on the journey of chapters 1 through 3 from Colonel Towner's perspective, because we already did your and my perspective.
Correct.
Yeah.
But before we even get into that, Colonel, you have an observation about this book that is mind-blowing. And I think we need to first start out with this observation because it could destroy the entire book.
The observation that, what are you referring to? I've had so many.
It's specifically about the screening of the book.
So every book that is written by a CIA agent will have in the front of it a annotation that says that, like in this area right here at the beginning, like where they have the copyright and all that other stuff, it will say that it has been reviewed by the CIA. So in most cases, the people that write books about the CIA that's not approved literature will have redactions in their books. They have to submit it to the CIA. The CIA approves the book, and then it can be printed. And there will be an annotation at the beginning of it indicating that it's went through that review. And several of them, of the ones that I have read, are the real whistleblowers will like leave that part white. So, just a blank page so they can see where the CIA, as kind of a jab to the CIA, as opposed to taking it out completely. They just leave it blank and say that was edited. And like in the case of Ship, who is one of the ones that they tried to kill, that I mentioned last week, he then follows that up with several of the media that is reported what he wanted to report, but he can't because of his non-disclosure statement. And he tells you that. He will say, I'm not saying this. The New York Times or the Washington Post is saying this. So he can get around that. None of that's in this book.
Yeah.
Now, would that still apply? Because, I mean, Pizzulo's not a known CIA agent
he's the author, but he is using, he makes it very obvious that he is writing this book in collusion with a CIA officer.
Okay.
So this guy that he excessively, Gary Bernstein, quotes throughout this entire book, he obviously is at liberty to talk about all of this stuff, right? None of this is cleared. So they are talking about information that he potentially would have, because he talks about having come across this case or whatever, heard this in the CIA. That's supposed to be cleared. So that was just an observation.
So sorry, go.
Well, he talks about all sorts of classified things in here. The Lebanese Venezuelan drug dealer that was running drugs for the CIA as an asset, or was an asset of the CIA running drugs. He talks about Frank Holder being a triple agent for, these are all a lot of things that would be classified on, and these are people that are still alive,
Correct.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I would also think that they are, if they're not, if he's not being truthful, they're overt defamation claims of the people who are still alive that he's talking about.
If they're not CIA as well.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. When you read the Holder chapter, why? And I searched. There's no defamation case.
Yeah.
Why would Holder sue him for defamation?
Because that trial would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Unless he's CIA as well.
Yeah.
He
Which
totally,
is the claim.
Oh, what happened there?
Are you still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, he totally slanders the guy.
Yeah. But if it's true, if what he's saying is true, it's not defamation. But you would expect to see, if it's not, if you would expect to see. Colonel, what is when you look at this and it doesn't have the same, earmarks of a CIA whistleblower production. It doesn't have the redactions. It doesn't have the disclaimer information in the beginning. Like, my initial reaction to that when we talked about it offline was, oh, have they gone rogue? Are they like off and, they're saying a whole bunch of tea in this book that they're not allowed to spill. And it sounded like you had kind of a little bit of a different take.
So, well, they were on the Laura Logan show, they said that they had to leave because they feared for their lives and had to go spend a year over in Europe. Like, there's no FBI over there, to nab them, like just everywhere. So I think, I'm sorry, because this book is so hard for me to read, just on the surface, because I can't get past a page of it with saying, and let's just, if I can start, I just want to, I think that this kind of plays out as we go along. So in chapter 1, where they refer to these people as whistleblowers, okay, they start with a DEA agent. And I just need to remind everybody that the DEA has been in with the CIA forever. Okay. So they want to use these organizations as bona fides. At the same time, they just arrested Paul Campo as the chief supposed guy in the DEA looking for money laundering after he retires for money laundering. Okay. So, and in every case, no matter what country I was in, where the CIA was running drugs, the DEA station was in on it. Okay. So just keep that in mind when they start talking these names. They throw out names to give themselves bona fides. Okay. So we're talking about DEA agent.
What page are you on?
13. First chapter.
13.
Yeah. So Rob Zach. Okay. He met me. He has all the bona fides. He worked to nab. Now, DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, is bona fide in working with Victor Bout. Do you know Victor Bout was an arms trafficker? He had literally nothing to do with the DEA. Nothing.
Wasn't he the Russian? Isn't he the merchant?
Yeah.
The merchant of death?
And here's another thing that I want to point out for everybody. We nab Victor Bout for running arms. The biggest arms trafficker in the world is the CIA. And what's most interesting about that, you don't see the Chinese government or the Russian government nabbing our arms runner like Aiden Khashoggi out in the hitherlands, right? We're the only government that picks up other countries' guys that do what we do. Like we just did with supposedly Maduro for running drugs. No other country goes around and nabs people for drugs running into Europe, right? They just don't do that. I find that hilarious as a double standard. So,
you know what I love, and I'm probably jumping ahead, and so we can talk about it when we get there, but I love that one of the things in the headlines right now in the current news is that the Cartel de los Sols doesn't exist, that it's this, which I'm pretty sure you said on this show last week, right?
I've said it repeatedly over and over again, and there's no way in hell they're going to talk about the Cartel de los Sols in court because the CIA created it.
Because it's the CIA. Yeah.
They literally created it. And people think I'm being bombastic when I say that. The National Guard and the National Police in Venezuela is exactly like the setup in Chile, Brazil, Colombia, where all of their National Guard were trained by our people. Their National Police was trained in places like the School of Americas, which is now the Hemispheric whatever school at Fort Benning. And the irony of all ironies is, and I may have said this to CannCon, but I visited Fort Benning a few months ago. I wanted to walk in that building. I wanted to talk to somebody that was in that building. I'm walking in, and the person walking out is a major in the Colombian army. When I'm walking down the steps after I left, there's 4 people standing talking collectively with full black uniforms on, Colombian police, their national police, being trained at the Hemispheric school that replaced the School of Americas. And for those of you who don't know, that school, whether the Hemispheric school still does it at Fort Benning or not, taught their national police and their National Guard how to set up black site prisons, torture cells, to include using USAID generators to electrocute the people to get them to talk, and how to kidnap people, how to use explosives to blow up things, and how to disappear people.
So just note, a couple weeks ago, they did a declassification of a RICO for immigration related cartel activity. You guys remember that? Within that, and I remember seeing it in the District of Colorado indictment specifically, they were working with Colombian intelligence and Colombian state police, the DEA, the DHS, and DOJ, and they cited, the number of state districts. They cited the federal districts within the states, and they cited Colombian.
Yeah. They're the,
from a timing standpoint, it's just the same time period that you're saying you're seeing them. So I thought it was notable.
Yeah. And I also want to keep in mind on page 14, when they talk about Hezbollah, they're talking about Lebanese people that live in Venezuela. They have no idea. It's just like anybody that's of Iranian descent is automatically part of, the Hamas or whatever. They have no idea. And there's no credible evidence put in this book at all of associating the people that live in Venezuela that moved there during the Civil War with our overthrowing the government and Israel bombing them. They went to Venezuela because they have very similar climate, and they're Lebanese. There's no evidence that they're Hezbollah. Now, they make that assumption, but they don't provide us any evidence that they have Hezbollah links. I just want to make that clear as well.
Okay.
Because they do it repeatedly through this entire book. All right. So they talk about how all of these people are, the whistleblowers are good. The next whistleblower they introduce is Martin Rodil. And they talk about, he informed me that he had been working on an investigation into election fraud in the US and abroad, and offered to show me this presentation, which is kind of the heart of this whole book.
Just real quick. So this meeting, this lunch starts out as like pitching a production company or an investment in that. Was that a setup to get this, this meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was our take.
So, and then he says, hey, I've got this great 4-hour PowerPoint presentation I want to show you. And of course, the author goes, I was horrified after looking at it. So it talks about, he goes over that the vulnerabilities of the election system. Now, again, Gary Bernson is a CIA guy.
Yep.
If he actually had evidence of election interference that the CIA was not part of, do you not think that he has people contacts in the government, not like the Trump administration, just legitimate, honest people that he would have gone to? No, we're going to go to this guy right here, this author who grew up with a dad who overthrew governments in Latin America. And we're going to talk to him.
Totally normal thing. I don't know what you're implying.
Yeah. All right. So Martin tells him that Gary Bernstein, the CIA guy, is my partner in all of this. And we need to make this information public. And we want you to write a book. Now, would that be the first thing that you did if you had election interference information, is write a book?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Me neither.
And this is 2020 what, when they do that? 2024, 2023?
I think.
He doesn't put a date on the date of the meeting.
In June of this year, he starts out in June
of this year. Yeah. So 2024, right?
So that would explain all of the spelling errors and the grammatical.
It was
errors.
super rushed. That's what we've said. And it keeps appearing. So the copyright 2025. So June of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
At best.
Now, and that's the thing, is like, we need you to write a book. Well, we find out later that they knew the core of this in like 2010, 2011. And why didn't we come out about it then? Yeah.
Right. Because that was right before Gabbard is going to come out with the real election interference.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
You gotta get it out there right now. Okay. So so he sets up the meeting. Of course, the author's in. Gary and I had co-written the New York Times bestseller Jawbreaker, about his leading a combined CIA special forces into Afghanistan. Well, that's interesting. Oh, and they partnered with the Afghan Northern Alliance so that they could restart all of the opium in Afghanistan. But we're definitely against drug traffickers. So, and they even mentioned
some of that timeline, the CIA desire to be in Afghanistan, the off-books programs around drones and other things is explored in Codex 9/11 by Brad as both the lead up to 9/11 and then what happened in the wake of 9/11.
Yes. And he mentions Ahmed Shah Massoud, who was the guy that was murdered the day before 9/11, because he was the Northern Alliance most effective leader, and he did not want to work with the CIA. Just
was
FYI.
he the guy that infiltrated them as a journalist?
This guy? Not
yeah,
Ahmad
Shah Massoud.
No, he's the Northern Alliance kingpin that was the most effective fighter of the Northern Alliance.
Okay.
He's the guy that was in the place where they snuck in a reporter to interview him and they murdered him. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. That's what I meant, is he was murdered. Like they hid a gun in his camera.
Yeah.
Right. I think.
Yeah. Sounds like something a CIA guy would do to the only guy that didn't like working with the CIA.
Yep.
Okay. And this guy was in charge of all that, by the way, Bernstein. That's what they're saying here. So I find that very interesting. Mm-hmm. And then it says he sent men to pursue the Al-Qaeda leaders. Well, that's interesting because the Al-Qaeda leaders are the old Mujahideen that the CIA turned into the Al-Qaeda. So, and he was in charge of the infamous Battle of Tora Bora, which of course we know was a sighting of bin Laden that turned out to be bullshit.
Or that's where they actually killed him. There's a lot of people that think that's where he actually died.
Okay. But
or it was totally Rob O'Neill that shot him.
That think he didn't die.
It was totally Robert O'Neill that shot him all by himself with no pictures or any evidence whatsoever in the one compound that had 12-foot walls, and nobody was allowed to go in Pakistan. Nobody ever raised alarms on it. It was totally that guy.
What about the body swap before the trophy kill that Iran hijacked, and that led to the pallets of cash?
Or the burial at sea, so that he was honoring his Muslim faith by being buried at sea.
Flood the zone with enough spy stories, and then the truth can just walk right through.
So garbage.
Yep.
All right. So we're establishing bona fides here. My favorite part yet in the whole book is at the bottom of page 15. The injured Al-Qaeda leader was trying to escape east into Pakistan. Gary lobbied the Pentagon and the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Tommy Franks. You see this thing right here? Right here is General Franks' coin. He was the CENTCOM commander. He was my boss. Was not the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He
Ever?
retired out of CENTCOM. Do you think if you're going to write a book like this, you could at least verify what fucking job the guy had when
Wow.
you talked to him?
So they don't even get this guy, because that's a big jump from CENTCOM to Joint Chief.
You think?
Wow.
Tommy Franks was the CENTCOM commander because he was my boss on 2001. I was at CENTCOM from 99 to 2002. General Zinni was replaced by General Franks, and then General Franks retired.
Way to go with your research, guys.
So he wasn't ever the Joint Chiefs?
No.
The head of the Joint Chiefs?
No.
So we're just making stuff up?
Just making shit up. Okay. So
We really
just make it. I'm just saying, if you're going to do a book and you're going to do your research, at least get the guy's job title right.
Yeah.
It's not even hard. It's on Wikipedia.
Well, doing the book and doing the research are not necessarily the same thing.
No. All right. So then it goes on and he says, he's one of the most decorated CIA officers ever. And I also found it fascinating that he was in the station chief in Kathmandu in Nepal in the 1990s. And that's when we were training terrorists to attack China in Nepal.
Yeah.
So the guy has a very interesting background from an Operation Gladio standpoint.
Yeah, he is one of the most decorated CIA operations officers in recent history, is not an endorsement.
No.
And that's one of the things about this book that bugs me so much, is that it has the assumption that everybody working in the Central Intelligence Agency is a good guy. And if we find one that's not, then that's a rogue actor, double agent, triple agent. I don't know. We might get to quadruple agents at some point, but that underlying assumption, and they do that a lot throughout. The CIA is just the height of valor, according to the voices in this book. And that's something that's really hard to swallow as you read it.
Yes, very hard to swallow given the research that we've done. And then, of course, he's in place for the Mumbai bombings, which definitely was Operation Gladio. So he has a very interesting track record. And then he's assigned to the CIA's counterterrorism center, where he led the Hezbollah working group. And he learned how to call everybody that's Lebanese descent Hezbollah. And he's involved in Khobar Towers, which has the hallmarks of Oklahoma bombing if you go back and do your research, which we know was not a single sole assassin, Timothy McVeigh. I don't know if you've done any research. I read extensively about Khobar Towers. I was at the Pentagon when it happened. And because it was Air Force, there was a lot of information that came through. There was lots of questions about the security. And they basically put those people up as sitting targets. No one would give them the security that they needed. I mean, just lots and lots. They knew the fertilizer truck was being developed, that they were procuring that stuff in advance. So again, this guy's involved in that. So just a very interesting background from my perspective.
And when you say, just for the audience sake, if you're not reading the book out there, when she says he's involved in Khobar Towers, he had responsibility for investigating it
from the CIA.
From the CIA, and the CIA Counterterrorism Center, Colonel. How do you see that show up in your research, not necessarily in this book, but how you, in your research broadly, where is that like the FBI? The way I kind of thought about it reading this was it was like the FBI Washington field office.
So,
Corruption
what I
hub,
love
in
is
other
the
words.
use of these words, and let me explain to you how they do this. So, in research of Operation Gladio, they love using the word counterinsurgency as their role, because that implies that the people that are in a country are the insurgents. So if you're in Chile and you don't want to live under the dictator that was installed by the CIA, you're actually a patriot wanting your country back, and the president that they murdered, replaced with an election. But the CIA decides that you're going to be under a military dictatorship for the next 20 years. And he's going to kill all of you guys if you stand up and argue about that. Kind of, like the whole J6 version. So they refer to the patriots in the country as insurgents. So their counterinsurgency operation has a legitimate ring because they're fighting insurgents. That's not what they're doing at all. They are fighting against the patriots in that country that wants their democratic elections back. Okay. So counterterrorism is basically the same thing in my book. They generate the terrorism, and then they justify the monitoring or the insertion of CIA assets into the terrorist fight by labeling the people fighting back against the CIA-sponsored terrorists as terrorists themselves. So now they're the good guys by labeling themselves the counter-terrorist. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's
Thesis,
exactly what they do.
thesis, synthesis, right?
Yes. They send in the terrorists to destroy a country. They call the people that
create
fight
them,
back the terrorist. And then they are the counter-terrorist guys that go in to quell the uprising.
Yeah. The worst
Against
people on
the
the planet is who we're talking about. Worst people on the planet.
And this is the guy that's involved in that as well.
And
All right.
he's responsible for investigating them for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
And they've gotten stronger.
Yeah. So I made a couple of notes on that. So there was a CIA agent when they were working with his Hezbollah working group against the Lebanese Shia terrorist group. And what I found very interesting, and this applied to the Khobar Towers event, that the Saudi police took all of the supposed offenders to secret prisons and tortured them, and did not allow the FBI or anybody else to see them. And then they killed them. And there was a CIA guy by the name of Schuer that had been tracking the explosives, and FBI Director Free directed everything on the ground there. There wasn't a task force from the FBI. The director went there. Yeah. Can't have anybody seeing what actually was going on. So very unusual, very unusual. And this guy was involved in that. All right. And then, of course, we follow him to Bolivia, which is one of the Crystal Triangle's most flagrant drug traffickers, until Evo Morales comes to power. He's elected. And listen how he describes it. Bolivia was the scene of vicious political struggle between the supporters of a democratic government and a Cuban-backed socialist movement headed by the labor union leader, Evo Morales.
You don't have to ask who the good guys and bad guys are in that sentence. It's very obvious.
Yes. So Evo Morales, because he kicked the CIA out, USAID, didn't want to have anything to do with them, and started authorizing the growing of coca plants legally for medicinal tea and the historical use of it. He's no longer a player in their drug network, so he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So Moving on.
Are there any evil dictators who did not become evil dictators following throwing the CIA out of their country?
No. None.
Nice.
You get rid of the USAID and you're an evil dictator. If you get rid of the DEA, you're an evil dictator. And yet the DEA has historically ran the drug operations in all of these countries. Yeah. All right. So Gary's in his element. He goes back by a station of talented officers and Ambassador David Greenlee, who, by the way, was in Bolivia and Paraguay in the he was in Paraguay in the 80s, which is when we were doing all of the nefarious things. Oh, by the way, Paraguay is where the Bush owns a ranch next to the Unification Church that has like a 400,000 acre ranch, all near the water and all with weird airports on them for drug trafficking. Paraguay. Okay. Unification Church, the Moonies, Reverend Moon was part of Operation Gladio in Korea. He owned the Washington Times. He sends the Moonies around as basically paramilitary. He owned, through the church, his own weapons manufacturing company, just so that you know that. So
this is one of the things that it's a bit hard to swallow as a Bible believing person, that the churches, mega churches, institutional religious NGOs, the church from an institutional standpoint is almost, if not entirely, if not entirely working in this domain.
I wouldn't say that all of the churches are. As a matter of fact, what I have found, now you could say that about most of the archbishops in the Catholic Church. There's a few exclusions, have been involved in this network. In the Unification Church, it's 100% this, but not at the lower levels. They don't even know this is going on, unless you're one of the people that are trained to do this. The same thing is true in the
hang on a second. I definitely don't mean all the churches, but what I'm talking about international institutional churches. Yes. The NGOs that are focused on, save the children, adopt a child, and you have a picture of your child and they'll write you a letter and you give us money every month. That part of the church conferences that have, all of these things are pass-throughs for massive amounts of money. And it's all under the guise of, well, we're just being the church. We're just being Jesus's church in the world.
Well, that was my first wake-up call in reading Paul Williams' book when he said the Vatican was the first major money launderer for the drug networks. Yeah. And I was shocked.
Yeah.
But it got worse after that.
Sure did.
All right. So David Greenlee was a former Peace Corps volunteer, Army officer. Peace Corps, by the way, was also infiltrated with the CIA. On the last day of his Bolivian assignment, Gary briefed Deputy Director of CIA, Bert Callan, a former admiral and Navy SEAL. And again, they're all about trying to put out these bona fides to make you believe that all of these people are, top tier, has a network. Gary's message to all of them was the same. The Cuban Director General of Intelligence of the Cuban Communist Party was completely dedicated to overthrowing the Bolivian government. Again, bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. They will label you whatever necessary in order to orchestrate your overthrow, which of course they eventually did with Evo Morales. They couped Bolivia.
Oh yeah, we need a significant covert action program to save Bolivia's democracy. Yes. We got to save the democracy, and
from a duly elected president.
Yeah, well, it's always democracy is a great reason.
And then he goes on to say that he wanted to initiate covert action, which they actually did, but the biggest obstacle was this person called Condoleezza Rice. Do you think Condoleezza Rice was ever an obstacle to any covert action? No. I'm going to go ahead and say no.
She was orchestrating.
Yes, she did.
Even so, right? So we don't believe that she was actually opposed to this, and this is probably, you know, a cover story so that she doesn't have any liability for the fact that they actually did go in and do the things. But even if she was the biggest barrier, this still reads as though they're admitting to a portfolio of crime to me.
Yes.
We're operating off books. We were rogue on our own. It wasn't Condi didn't know, right? She said no. We decided to do it anyway. And that the assertions like that, which are throughout the book, are a big part of the reason that it reads to me that these people are trying to stay out of prison.
Yeah. So also, he's talking about this assistant secretary, Roger Noriega, where he's meeting with him on a couple of different occasions. As they parted, Noriega suggested that Gary reach out to Martin Rodell. And if you look at these people, it's very, very interesting that this Roger Noriega has a very interesting background too. Rodell and Noriega were at Vision Americas, and that involved the Honduras CIA coup. And they also created a thing called the Madrid Charter, which is very interesting because there was a corresponding document a long time ago called the Madrid Circular that basically talked about setting up what amounts to a Nazi international one world government. So I love the name of the Madrid Charter. And Rodell was at the IMF, and he worked for the Venezuela nationalized oil company. So he has a bone to pick with, hold on a second.
We can take a break real quick, and we'll play our one of our sponsors real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Get you some of that beard oil.
Now that I'm alone, got the close up. Do you see how awesome my beard looks right now?
I use the beard oil every single day. First thing.
Comes out feeling all silky smooth.
I take the dropper and I manually apply the oil directly
hair.
to my mustache.
Nice and, oh man, I love it.
And then I do drops all throughout the hair, and then I just rub it all in. And then I top it off with the tallow stick on the face.
Dude, I feel like I have to grow a beard just to try this beard oil. It sounds
Do it, Jay.
amazing.
It's all from softdisclosure.com, and the best part about it is you'll be supporting Badlands Media, Annie from Willow and Farms, and basically 3 of Annie's neighbors. So that's 5 total American companies that you'd be supporting with one purchase.
I have been using the Soft Disclosure scentless beard oil every day after the shower. It looks unkempt, but it feels silky smooth. I want to look a little wild and unapproachable, but for the woman I trust, she'll be like, oh, it's actually kind of soft. He is approachable after all. Otherwise, stay away. And Soft Disclosure will help you too with that if that's the very specific vibe you're going for.
That is very specific, yes.
You guys are supporting American businesses when you do that. It's absolutely incredible, and you get a great, great product. All right. Yeah, there you go.
You can get the beard oil, you can get the lotion, tallow bar, goat's milk lotion, incredible products, America made. You are force multiplying your purchase and supporting multiple American businesses. Softdisclosure.com, promo code Badlands.
All right.
All right.
All right,
So
we're all good?
we're on page 18. And halfway down the page, it says Martin, like let's whisper, didn't want to reveal his name because there were public threats against him by Diosdado Cabello. Okay. And he's very close friends with Hugo Chavez. So he's scared. He also says that he's the leader of the thing that doesn't exist, Cartel del Sol. Okay. So kind of the news.
Do you think it's meaningful that in here they say Cartel del Sol, and what we're seeing is Cartel de las Soles, right?
It is de las Soles. So it's Cartel of the Suns, and that's like the plural. The Sole is the plural of that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's significant, other than just poor editing.
Same entity, no question.
Same entity. Yeah. All right. And then a leaked U.S. embassy cable from 2009. I wonder who would leak an embassy cable to these guys that talked about major corruption of Cabello. And it just so happens that it's very useful. And let me tell you, having looked at like probably over 1,000 State Department cables, here's what you find. The State Department cables are made up of material given to them by the CIA in the country. Okay. So they will generate cables to cover what the CIA is about ready to do. So if they're going to, and what's most interesting, especially like in the one that I was deeply researched, was the Guatemala coup in 1954. You had low-level CIA guys, just like the one guy that was doing the Contra stuff, the one DEA guy who started sending cables directly to his DEA counterpart in the US and not the DEA station in Costa Rica, which is the way the operation was running. He's telling the DEA, these guys are bad. They're running drugs. They're running, on his cables, but the official cables from DEA going to Washington all said everything's fine. There's no drug running. There's no weapons running. Everything's fine. So rarely, but sometimes you find these low-level, somebody's dug them up through FOIA or whatever. In Guatemala, the low-level CIA guys were all saying, there's no communist here. We've talked to everybody. We can't find a single communist. And the CIA station chief and the State Department ambassador in Honduras was going, oh my God, we're flooded with communists. We got to overthrow the government. They're in bed with the communists. So keep in mind when you read leaked State Department cables, the majority of the actual information in them comes from the CIA. And it's making it into a top level one, so it isn't the real one.
So like good example, or at least the way it comes in my mind, is that movie Sicario, where Josh Brolin is, we want to do a thing. We the CIA want to do a thing. So they send in Josh Brolin's character to fuck shit up. And he, we're going to create, we're going to make a politician, make it look like a politician did something bad, or we're going to create the Benghazi style. It was an anti-Muslim video that caused that uprising, and then the embassy was overrun, and it was, who could have seen this coming, right? That kind of rebel rousing activity to create the conditions on the ground where the story that's being told in these cables that you're talking about looks like it's backed up by what we can see with our eyes. And of course we have to go send the CIA in to do some stuff now, maybe even military.
Yes, when it gets out of hand.
Yep.
Okay. So it says that from 2009, that cable characterized Cabello as a major pole in the corruption in Venezuela regime. So we're just building a story here. In August of 2017, the Miami Herald, which by the way has had actual confirmed CIA agents working in it. I don't know whether that's true today, but it has been true in the past. That is one of their favorite newspapers because of the Cuban exile population. Reported that Cabello had contacted some Mexican nationals to discuss killing Marco Rubio. So if you're CIA and you want to plan a story about Marco Rubio, you're going to do it in the Miami Herald. Just that's the way I read that. But obviously they needed that story to be written in order for them to do whatever it was they were doing at the time. 2.5 years later, in 2020, the U.S. Department of State offered $10 million for information leading to his arrest. And I'm going to explain to you as we get further back in the book. an organization that they use. It's probably past where we're going to get tonight, but they have particular organizations. We'll go through one extensively that generate information that are funded by USAID and George Soros for them to plant stories like this. And it will become apparent as we get further back in the book.
Let me, Colonel, let me jump in here for just 1 second, because we're about to come off of Diosdado Cabello. And I covered him this morning on Badlands Daily, because there was an article, ironically, from the Miami Herald. And I said today on my show, I said, arguably the Miami Herald per capita has more CIA influence over it than the Washington Post and the New York Times, because of exactly like you said, Miami is central to the South American, Central American population in this country. And there's so many influential, like when you go down to Miami and you see it's not all of them by any extent, but when you go down to Miami and you see all of these Venezuelans that are celebrating the overthrow of Maduro, that's because most of them that live here now were the middle upper class, the oligarchs that were getting destroyed, and it wasn't Maduro that was destroying them. It was U.S. sanctions and European sanctions and Canadian sanctions against Venezuela. But listen to this narrative, Colonel, that the Miami Herald is already setting up for what I call what President Trump just did with Maduro, ending a color revolution and putting his own thumb on the scale and making this overt. This is them attempting to continue it. They say Cabello is one of the most feared of Venezuela's ruling elite, a central pillar of the country's security and intelligence apparatus. He has been sending voice messages directly to military officers and regime figures personally loyal to him, calling on supporters to take to the streets in defense of the socialist revolution. And then this is the most damning of the article, of the paragraphs here. As Cabello issued his calls to mobilize, pro-government paramilitary groups known as colectivos moved swiftly to assert control over parts of Caracas. According to citizen reports, the groups set up checkpoints and carried out patrols across the capital, stopping vehicles, reviewing the identities of occupants, and checking conversations and photographs on their cell phones. And I lied. This is the paragraph. Cabello's movements, combined with the visible deployment of armed civilian groups, underscore growing uncertainty over whether the post-Maduro leadership, now formally headed by interim President Delcy Rodriguez, can realistically pursue reconciliation with Washington and cooperate with the Trump administration on stabilizing the country and guiding it toward an eventual democratic transition.
So if you don't know too much about Venezuela, the collectivos are what you and I would call militia. Under the revolution militia, not the negative FBI term of militia. Right. A long time ago, they trained and armed these collectivos all around the Venezuela, because there was a lot of the remnants of drug trafficking from the CIA and a lot of nefarious shit going on in Venezuela. And the peasants were the ones that were always getting the short end of the stick. So Chavez's idea was to arm them and allow them to police themselves. That they basically were going to have the infrastructure, because they had no money, they had no weapons, they had no ammunition, is to give them and let the elders in their small towns collectively work in conjunction with Caracas at the overall. They literally are the good guys. They're not the bad guys. They're what you and I would call the tavern guys in the revolution.
Patriots.
Yeah. Yes. And so Caracas has quite a few of them, obviously, because it's big. But they form this. They perform the same function as they do in the smaller areas. And so they're just getting the people that are trained in crowd controls out on the street to control crowds. That's it.
Okay.
But
I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to throw that in there.
About it. Okay. So basically, Cabello is the big bad guy. Then the book goes temporarily back to Martin to establish his Venezuelan bona fide, saying that he worked at the state-owned gas company. Basically, after it already become partially nationalized, and that he worked in the chief economic office. Sorry about that. And so Martin then moves to Washington, D.C., right exactly at the same time Chavez takes over. So that gives you Martin's background, right? So he's part of the old elite that doesn't want to stay in Venezuela when Chavez comes to power. And where does he go? He becomes a researcher at the Organization of American States. And that's very interesting because the Organization of American States is basically, to put it very bluntly, a patsy of the US government that basically pretends like it's an organization that represents all of Latin America, but it always does what the US wants it to do because most of its funding comes from there. So take that for whatever it is. And the CIA has used it repeatedly because they used it when they were setting up the World Anti-Communist League little squadrons down through Latin America for their anti-communist narrative down there. Oh, and then he moves on to the completely neutral IMF.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love this story. Like, poor refugee. Just
Yes.
come in here in search of a better life. This is the American dream, is it not? That you come to America to live the dream of working for the IMF and using your knowledge of Venezuelan oil companies to enable globalism.
Yeah, and the IMF is the book, the Tales of the Economic Hitman. That's the IMF and the World Bank.
Yep.
That's what they do. Okay, so that's what he's doing.
Yep.
They force loans on poor.
Oh, he's just an analyst, Colonel. Let's not get crazy.
Yes, but there he learned how to figure out financing for terrorism and money laundering. Isn't that interesting? In 2005, he left the IMS and started doing quote unquote investigations for private banks.
Yeah.
You know, all the private banks that money launder?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's been fined billions of dollars for money laundering. He's doing investigations for those banks. One of them involved a Venezuelan company with accounts in a Panamanian bank that became part of Portugal Citibank. Oh, so Citibank is money laundering. Big shocker. Martin and a fellow investigator discovered that those accounts really belonged to a member of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Further investigation revealed that there was links to a terrorist group, Hezbollah, and was being used to launder money for drug cartels. Where is a single document?
They're classified, Colonel. They're classified, and you just have to take our pinky promise for it. And just to be clear, because you're pushing back on Hezbollah a lot, right? Every time Hezbollah comes up, it's not Hezbollah. We don't have any documentary evidence that it's Hezbollah. Is that because Hezbollah doesn't exist?
No, it definitely exists. I just don't know who is and who isn't. And this book does not bother to give us any factual evidence. There's not even
people means Hezbollah.
There's not even an article that they're quoting. This guy is not doing classified shit. This guy is working for not classified people, right? Yeah. He's an investigator. He's a civilian investigator investigating
for banks.
So do you think that if he found substantial money laundering, there'd be a single article that they could link and quote from?
But also, this is duty to report stuff, right? He's doing private investigations for banks. He's a corporate consultant, essentially, like a forensics guy, right? Come in, do the investigation, figure out what's going on. If in that line of work, it's my understanding, if you uncover massive international money laundering, you have a duty to report.
Yes.
Unless you're in the CIA, and then it doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want.
Correct. But when they get reported, there is action taken. And eventually, I mean, we're talking 2005. Eventually, these articles get published that there was money laundering by an Hezbollah group. Do you not think that would be splashed all over the front of the Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post? Because the CIA is all about attacking Hezbollah repeatedly. There's no articles of any of this, but we're going to use it to substantiate the bona fides of this guy when they present zero evidence of it. I'm not doubting it happened. I'm just saying that you don't convince me that these are his bona fides without some evidence.
Proof.
There's zero evidence.
Yeah.
All right. We're just making a bunch of assertions here. In 2008, while Martin was briefing the House Intelligence Committee on money laundering and corruption, he was approached by members of the DEA. They asked if I could help him. So he's going to become an informant for the DEA. The same DEA that's money laundering themselves. Hey, come help us hide our money laundering.
And we're in 2008, just so people know.
Yeah. So he was able to recruit high-profile defectors from the Venezuelan regime. Among the package of information they possessed was criminal conduct by the regime. Again, no evidence, none.
No, they turned the screws on them.
Yeah,
that's what they did to Juan Orlando Hernandez. That's what Carvajal Barrios is about to do to Maduro. That's what they do. They bring them over here. They keep them as a useful asset until they're no longer useful. Then they put them in prison, and then they say, "Hey, if you rat on this guy, we'll let you out."
Yes, perfect. That's a great summary. All right. About 14 years ago, Martin Rodell and Gary Berntsen started a business focused on asset recovery. They became whistleblowers for different departments of the U.S. government. That's not what a whistleblower is. I'm sorry. A whistleblower is somebody that actually works in the government. It's not the people that get rich off of turning people in. That's like a bounty hunter.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the whole chapter is
It's
called
like a job listing, like whistleblowers wanted on Craigslist, right? Like
10% of whatever you uncover.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's great that there's people out there that want to be a bounty hunter for fraud, but don't call yourself a whistleblower.
Yeah.
And then it says, over the course of our careers, we helped recover money from Russian mobs, overseas bank. Where is the evidence?
Yeah.
And they cite, because this would have been main front page news, right? Here's the drug trafficker we turned in. Here's the overseas bank that we turned in. And here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, they have to do it under the secret. They have to do it under secrecy, Colonel, and their operations cannot be known. Yeah, classified.
It's not a matter of national security. It's going to be a threat to national security and democracy if we don't keep it classified.
I need to have a rubber stamp that's sitting here that says national security on it, because that's what the CIA sticks on everything.
Yep.
You go along with my Gladio coin. All right. So there's no evidence that they did any of this. We're just going to take on face value that they did all of it. They're not going to show us their little shiny plaque that you got for turning this in. Because, of course, it's not going to say there was a whistleblower. It's going to say that they were a bounty hunter to turn these people in. So,
yeah. And I don't think I've ever heard of whistleblowers getting a cut of the damages achieved by the entity that they whistleblew on. There's
actually,
potentially, they can potentially bring a separate case for damages for what happened to them as whistleblowers, but getting a cut of the spoils?
No. So you're right on the whistleblower side. Yeah. On the fraud, waste, and abuse, when you identify that as a government employee, you do get some compensation for doing that. But it has absolutely nothing to do with whistleblowers. So they're just trying to kind of cover up themselves. Look at us. We're the whistleblowers. We're telling you all these secrets. Okay. And then it says one of the places they worked was the IRS, the SEC. So they're just, again, trying to establish their bona fides. Yep. Down at the bottom of the page. And instead of just giving it to the DOJ, we could package it through law firms that specialized in whistleblower cases and participate in asset recovery. They're still not whistleblowers. And all they're basically doing is giving it to their law firm buddies that is going to get a cut of the money.
And asset recovery is a synonym for asset seizure, everyone.
And let me also just point out that the CIA has been notorious for doing this to take out people that are their competitors. Okay, so if you know, like in the case of Pablo Escobar, who was coming into Miami and knocking out all of the Cuban exiles that were doing the drugs so he could replace them with his own Colombians and he'd get a higher cut of the money. If you run across that and you're trying to take Pablo Escobar out, you'd want this guy to tell on Pablo Escobar. And that's what the CIA does. If they find one of their guys that are going a little rogue and doing deals on the side, they'll turn them into people like this for drug trafficking or money laundering or whatever. And that's how they take out their competition. That's actually documented as part of Gary Webb's book. Okay. So, Martin says that on page 22, basically, I'm doing the same thing that I had been doing for the DEA and DOJ for years. And then he says, Martin's and Gary's primary target was the Cartel de la Sol. Doesn't exist.
Well, they are it.
All right. Then he says he started recruiting them to become sources for the U.S. government. And some of them became aware of the capacity for the regime to steal elections. That's kind of their foot in the door. And then he goes on to say that the Chavez regime insiders explained that electronic voting system the Chavez government had developed to steal elections in Venezuela had been used in other countries. And interesting, the countries that he marked here, Argentina, Bolivia, Nicaragua, those are all the countries that the CIA doesn't like, by the way. They're all rigged.
Sure. Because their CIA isn't running them.
I confirmed that the regime had stolen elections for Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua and Evo Morales. Now, I've already told you that these are targeted. They've tried to overthrow Nicaragua for years. Like that's a whole Iran-Contra when the Sandinistas were in Ortega. So these are CIA targeted people who got elected and they're pissed off. So the only way they could have got elected was with corrupt election machines.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that the audience understands that Martin Rodil, when he became aware of the capabilities built into election machines to steal them, was 2009. 2009. Now, later on, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, we need to do something around like 2011. They still don't actually do anything until they rush to write this book in 2025, in June 2025.
15 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. Seems like you're trying to get ahead of something. No, we're not the ones that did this. We're the ones that solved it.
Yes.
Look over
here.
20 years.
Look over here. It's all been
almost 20 years. You've known about this. Yeah.
All right. So then they start into the I wrote a note. So they were telling the Venezuelan folks what was going on in their own country. So down here where it says on page 23, the DEA had a strong program to place and accommodate high profile witnesses like these and provide them resources and a safe place to stay. So that they could provide testimony about regime members involved in drug trafficking and money laundering, while telling the whistleblower what they knew about the regime's role in the Cartel de la Sol. So they were actually briefing these people about what they felt was going on in the Venezuela regime, and they're talking to Venezuelans.
So if the Cartel de la Sol doesn't exist and it is a narrative shield for simplicity, a narrative shield for the CIA and for, regime change in South and Central America, Latin America, then when these guys who are working for US intelligence, right, whether that's DEA, CIA, however, they're in that, when they're telling them what's going on with the Cartel de la Sol, they are the Cartel de la Sol. That's I mean, if it doesn't exist, well, it does kind of. I mean, it's the narrative shield for the CIA. So if it exists as the CIA,
we're going to project it onto them so that we can then use it.
It's Kaiser Soze.
And that's basically what I find through a lot of this. So supposedly they're down there sifting around and they find a wealthy businessman whose family had built a successful company over the course of 3 generations. He explained to Martin how Chavez has confiscated all of his businesses and how the regime had been using. Okay, so this is not an unbiased guy. This is a guy that was one of the elite and had his possessions taken supposedly by the government. And he's going to tell them that the guy that took him was elected improperly because he'd get all the shit back. So you see, there's a built-in bias there.
Yeah.
That's not a neutral person, some, Joe Smo walking down the road. Hey, there's a bunch of CIA guys over here collecting information so they can overthrow Chavez. Any of you guys that have anything, go talk to that guy over there. Yeah. Oh, look, he took all my shit. And he did it by a bad election.
Want reparations?
Yes. All right. He said the Chavez regime had, in effect, found a new way of hijacking democracy and keeping themselves in power, kind of like the guy did before. But it says instead of launching a military coup like Pinochet, i.e. the CIA, had done in Chile, they were able to do it with election machines. Now, do I believe that they're using election machines? Yes, to some extent. But I don't believe that Venezuela is in control of them when they set the company up in Florida by expats from Venezuela in Miami.
Yeah.
Well, not to mention, if Venezuela's rigging elections, they do a really shitty job at picking the people to put in place because that country is not, looked at as like a beacon of prosperity on the world stage.
Well, let's talk about that. How many times has the CIA tried to coup Venezuela?
For the last 30 years at least.
So you're supposed to believe the CIA's in control of this through Smartmatic, but they're installing people that they're then going to coup like they did Pinochet?
My working theory has always been that Venezuela developed it, the CIA seized it, and in order to keep the cat from being let out of the bag, they have to keep Maduro happy, or the Chavismos in Venezuela happy, and he's won elections ever since. So while the CIA understands that, they don't really necessarily want him there. That's the only way they can control the elections that they are able to control, because Maduro, if he got extracted out of there by Delta Force in the middle of the night and was with a guy who's been adamant about the 2020 election being stolen, that could be a really bad thing for the CIA.
It would be, even if they're using Venezuela as a prop, it still doesn't explain why they tried to overthrow Chavez, because they're talking about this happened even before Maduro. They're saying that Chavez 2004 election, the interim referendum, was a rigged by, so they're saying this has gone on for a while. Meanwhile, they're trying to overthrow the government that they put in. So he says right here, they're going to use machines instead of coups while they're still couing Venezuela. Make that make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I mean, to your point, Brian, I think that the machine code, right, the way they talk about source code in this book irritates the crap out of me, because it's like this magic bullet thing that is in there and nobody knows where it is. Okay. Code has to be maintained. It has to be acceptance tested. It has to be, you know, when you're tweaking it. And the elections is the hardware, the way that energy comes into systems, that the level of innovation that has gone on since even just 2012, which is the part of the story we're about to come into, but certainly 2006, we're in an entirely different world from a technology standpoint. That source code is not a static thing. It's not something that's like a secret. I you know, happy to be proven wrong on this, but every cyber expert I've talked to about it, and I've talked to a few now since Brian and I read this chapter the first time, says it's absolute bullshit. Also, during this time period, the 2006 to 2012 time period, we were the United States of America from a cyber security standpoint, technology capability standpoint, was leading the world. So the idea that Americans just couldn't imagine how nefarious this was and all of that that's coming into this book is also bullshit and detached from the actual skills globally, the different theaters, the actual skills on the ground during the time frame that these guys are telling us that the US just couldn't figure it out.
And another one of the highlights of this chapter is that they needed somebody with expertise in computers, and the only place that they could find them was Israel.
You know,
we said the same thing.
As one of my favorite. Yeah. And again, how is that not, you know, a problem from a US standpoint? Because I don't mean it from Israel standpoint. I mean it from we have a massive security issue with US elections. We better call this foreign nation guy that I know. There is a duty to report. Well, they wouldn't believe me, he says later down. They didn't believe me. They just couldn't imagine. Bullshit. I call bullshit on this entire thing. It's detached from what the landscape of technology was, as well as common sense in that situation that was being described, as well as regulation and expectations for officers in that. Well, we just had, I the only guy that I know that can do it is in this foreign country. Let me bring him into this massive
country, and I'm going to go to this one.
Yeah, I'm going to bring in this foreign guy into this massive national security situation that I've just uncovered. We're not going to tell the Americans at all. Okay, you're a bad guy. You're one of the bad guys in the movie now.
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't believe me. Whatever.
Okay, and then he's going up against the Chavez regime. Because they still want you to believe that they're in control of it, that had earned $1 trillion in oil sales alone. Okay. And of course, to Brian's point, the UK has stepped in as controlling interest in Smartmatic. So yeah, we're worried about their Chavez oil money when he's been under sanctions now for a while. What the Israelis discovered was that Venezuela was using a system of electronic voting machines which registered an election decision, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to go into the semantics, but supposedly they were able to get access to the machines to figure all of this out. I thought that's one of the big taboos, is that you couldn't get access to these machines.
Yeah.
Well, thank God the Israelis did, and they solved it for us. Thank God.
Yeah, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And right. I don't care which fucking foreigners it is. The idea that we couldn't talk to U.S. cybersecurity capabilities. We couldn't do that because they were too stupid to understand how technology worked, and not this time. This fraud, guys, it's real, super secret, advanced. Nobody could ever figure it out. I have shared these assertions with people that knew not just technology capability, because I know technology capability in 2012 in the corporate space. I was involved in that world, but from a government standpoint, from a national security standpoint, those guys say this is absolutely bullshit. The U.S. had the leading cyber capabilities in the world at this point. Yeah. We have been, we've had China rising and all these other things happen, but at this time, that they're saying, well, there's just nobody that could imagine it. There's nobody that could figure it out at this point. It was really scary. We had to go to Israel. That it's bullshit storytelling.
Yes. All right. So that happened in 2012. Moving on to the middle of 25. The electronic election systems had the ability to flip the results at any time during the election day. Trying to head off another steal, Martin put together a presentation, and he showed to the Venezuelan opposition. Now, who is the Venezuelan opposition? Sumatra.
At this time, it's Sumate and Maria Corina Machado.
Funded by USAID and the CIA.
In 2012?
Yeah, 2012, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And she's groomed by the George W.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they told me the regime couldn't get away with it because the Carter Center had monitored, not just the Carter Center, they had international observers, and all of as far as the mechanics of the election, not the inside the box stuff, said that it was a legitimate election. They just didn't like the results of it.
I think it was Chris. I think Chris is the one that told me this, and I haven't confirmed it, but he said like all of the claims of election fraud in Venezuela are all based on like a couple of exit polls that were conducted.
And
like,
who does the exit polls?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And
the
if
Carter
you use,
Center?
yeah, pretty much observers. Oh, the regime. No, the regime.
Well, the exit polls are generally written or created by
candidates.
The exit polls specifically for this election, because I looked that up, came from two different media sources. And they were saying that because they were randomly talking to people on the street, that those polls didn't reflect the outcome of the election. Well, I mean, come on. At the time, you had a whole bunch of people down there and that's another thing that just blew me away when I started researching Venezuela. They never threw out, they gave them a hard time, but they never threw out the foreign press. There were press down there that had links to USAID funding. So if they issue a poll and it doesn't look like their poll, then that's indication of election fraud. I'm sorry, I'm not following you.
The same Mockingbird media outlets down there that base their assumptions that Maduro and Chavez were illegitimate because of exit polls are the same ones that told us here, despite all the just the statistical and mathematical data that shows it's impossible that Joe Biden got 81 million real lawful American votes, they dismiss all of that.
Yes.
Or the poll that showed that Hillary Clinton was going to win 99-1.
Yeah, they dismiss all of that. It's absolutely insane. All right.
And Alex Halderman's assertion that human behavior involved in elections is just so random and so unpredictable that you cannot use statistical analysis to understand it.
And then they make the assertion that Hugo Chavez died, and then they kept him alive. And you know what that reminded me of is the shit you see about JFK Jr. being alive and all that shit, and all these people being dead, and they died. That one account I don't remember on True Social used to report that shit all the time. So and so died on such and such a date. So and so died on such and such a date after they were found guilty at Gitmo or whatever. And I'm like, the CIA's doing that? Okay. So anyway, that was pretty much it for that chapter.
All right.
When you get to
we do have to point out that the U.S. President Jimmy Carter called Smartmatic the best in the world.
Yeah. Okay. So getting over to page 30, because chapter 2 is whistleblower part 2.
I think we have Brad and Abby coming up in 5 minutes. So we should
wait, chapter 2 is real short. Chapter 2 is real short.
All right.
So after we've already established there is no whistleblowers, whistleblower 2 basically says that at the beginning of the page on 30, anyone with access to the data can see in real time whether the voter had voted and who they voted for, because they're making the assumption that there's a group of people sitting in Caracas that are voting for people that don't vote. And again, there's no proof of any of this. There's no affidavits. There's no witness statements. They're just making full on bullshit. And let's see, middle of the page. But what you're getting ready is a system created in Venezuela and still electronically linked to Venezuela.
I highlighted that too. What the fuck does that mean? Still electronically linked to Venezuela? Are they running a cable all the way down there to hook them up electronically?
It's cloud, probably.
Yeah, and that's what I said. How is that even possible?
Cloud.
And then at the top of the next page, it says, but in these cases, it's so complicated, it's almost impossible to follow. But they did it because they're brainiacs. None of us peons can do it.
Right. Even though everything in this book, in terms of the Smartmatic aspect, we've known since 2021.
And have reported.
There's practically zero new information in this book other than their CIA spin.
Yes. And then at the bottom of 31, it says, Gary and I are experienced investigators, and we've gone through all of this and dealt with dangerous criminals. But we have been effective, and much of our success has depended on human intelligence. So that's just a trust me, bro. Line.
Here's
all right.
Yeah, because we can't tell you who our sources are, because that would be a threat to both source and national security. So trust us.
And then page 32, democracies and representative governments all over the world are under attack. No shit, by the fucking CIA.
By you, asshole.
I just lost my shit when I read that. I was like, are you kidding me? You've overthrown over 90 of them successfully, and you've conducted over 400 attempts. They're definitely under attack, but it has nothing to do with Smartmatic.
You ever seen the movie Liar Liar with Jim Carrey?
No.
Oh, well, there's this, he can't tell a lie, and he's an attorney.
Breaking the law.
Stop breaking the law, asshole. She says, your client's on the line. He wants to know how he can get out of prison or whatever. And he picks up the phone and he just goes, stop breaking the law, asshole, and hangs up. He's supposed to be his lawyer. Anyways,
beautiful. Yeah, I just want to expand on that one part, because that democracies are being attacked, but this is kind of the setup, I think, for the rest of the book, right? The conclusion Gary and Martin have come to is this: we, the United States, are fighting a monster of 1,000 heads. We've allowed it to infiltrate our society and government and control our elections. This is not just a U.S. problem. Democracies and representative governments all over the world are under attack. By you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can, I have quite a few notes on chapter 3 to set up the rest of the book. But we can do that next week.
Yeah, we're out of time. We have one Rumble rant. Gfontes 119 says, please tell Zach some a-hole in chat. Hopes he feels better. If you happen to speak to him, please. I don't have to follow Aunt HIPAA, so I'll share that he threw out his back as old folk do. Yeah, he did talk about that on Baseless last night, that he threw his back out, which is the worst. And it does suck getting old. I think there might have been a boost as well.
I did not see one. So let's just ask, we got a minute left. Favorite take on this so far, Ash, from the Colonel? Because mine is definitely the Tommy Franks thing. I'm stealing that one. I'm stealing that one. Bro, you can't even get the general's position right. Joint Chiefs, Commander of CENTCOM. Yeah. Close. Not even in the same continent.
And that was right off the bat, because that personally, I lived that, and I was like, holy shit, is this going to be the whole book? And yes, it is going to be.
Yes, it is.
Yes, like that is unforgivable to do something like that, to cite somebody and just like something you could have Googled in 2 seconds. I Googled it to fact check you. And no offense to you. I'm not like,
I encourage everybody to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to fact check.
He's my fucking boss. I saw the man in the crisis action team after 9/11 every day.
But you like, people got to understand, like, you lose a shit ton of credibility when you're writing a very controversial book like this and saying a lot of trust me bro shit, and you can't even get your fundamental facts, your public information correct.
Yeah, it's on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Ash, you want to add one?
Oh, I mean, it's all It's all been educational, and we've talked a bunch off of the show as well to get our heads around this. Yeah, I mean, I think I appreciate you, Colonel, because I generally think everyone's a Fed, right? I mean, Brian can confirm this. I did
Yes.
like, I believe we're living in a time where it's like, this is not the time to make new friends. So if you have people coming around and want to get like all up in your business and talking, just generally believe that everybody's a Fed. Most people tell me I'm a crazy person. Colonel Towner never does. She never makes me feel crazy. And I love that about you.
I tell you, you're crazy all the time, though.
I know you do. You have way too much trust in people, though.
I do not.
Yes, you do.
Okay. I have discernment, and I let people talk their way into things and out of
You
things.
let me in his house.
Yeah, I did.
He let me in his house, too.
I let them drive my jet skis, and they drove it up on the shore.
Very good. We didn't do very good.
They drove it up on the shore, and then they sucked up the tow rope. Thankfully, all of it came out okay.
I got dumped in the water in the first 5 seconds.
I asked them, I said, you know how to drive jet skis? They're like, yeah, we could do this.
Not me. I've never driven one.
Christy's on the back. She's like, hey, they're all the way back there. And I look back and I'm like, oh no.
I'm in the water.
Oh, well,
right,
it's a good
Colonel.
memory. You have the story. Everybody hit the like button for us, and we'll be back with chapter 3 next week.
I will say this, Colonel can vouch to how good my steaks are.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He even does the presentation. So
Yeah.
I think my steaks cooked on a smoker are really good because I use grass-fed beef bought locally. But I have to say, Brian doesn't just make them to perfection. He then presents them in a way that is way too
plated, and
because by that time I'm starving. I felt like I was a princess.
Love it.
All right, Colonel.
All right.
Thanks again for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Smash that thumbs up. If you
one
can.
more rant came in. Denise Antu says, great view from the Colonel as always. See you guys next week. Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right. God bless. Me and Ash will see you tomorrow morning on Badlands Daily, unless Ash decides she's just going to no-show me and decide.
I have never done that to you.
Colonel.
She's
Alpha
not
no-showed
alpha.
me today.
Come on, she's not alpha.
I am not alpha. I have never done that to you.
I know. All right, guys. Have a great night.
Hey, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.